Oh boy, there it went. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me again on my YouTube channel. We're back on Project XJ2 door. And let's be frank, nobody likes a tease. And that cold opening was kind of a hint of things to come. I am going to break out some sandpaper and other supplies and get a little bit more cleanup work done on the cowl to start out, because I'm going to start with the cowl and just kind of move my way up into the windshield frame. That will require removing the glass, and well, I think we kind of hinted that it's not going to go as well as hoped. But let's break out those sharp tools and you'll see how bad I can screw this up. Before pulling the windshield to see just how far that had sunk into a pit of ferric oxide, I realized something still looked funny about the cowl. And that's when I realized that the front end hit, which resulted in me buying a cheap Jeep with the color scheme of a US election map, must have pushed the hood far enough up and back to jam the hinges into the cowl lip. It wasn't fatal to the cowl, but the support lip for the hood seal wasn't looking like its usual self. So, as happens in these situations, I decided to just finish up the cowl. First, there was lots of straightening work to coax the creased, stretched metal back to its OE shape. Then, there was a lot of cleaning and more paint. Urethane seam sealer has a short shelf life once the seal is broken, so using up the tube from last time was basically free. Couldn't ask for better weather. Right around 60, 62 Fahrenheit, low humidity. Once we got to the top of the cowl, then there were scratches and dents to fill. This was done partly through glazing putty and partly through multiple coats of paint, applied, buffed back down, and applied again to fill some soft scratches. Much later, a 2K clear coat aerosol was used to put a factory finish back onto the surface. Finally, a new hood seal was installed. First, however, the windshield seal needed to come off, and that's where the smoothness of this experience took a sharp turn. Oh boy. Guess I'm not reusing that windshield. Well, I've now discovered rust along the top lip up here, especially over on that side where I did have some windshield leaks. Hopefully it's still at the point where we can repair it, but the only way to really figure that out is to get this windshield off. Now, I've already pulled off the rubber seal around here, but now I understand the next best thing that needs to be done is to cut away as much of the exposed polyurethane is already there before using the windshield polyurethane removal tool. And because of the way these windshields are installed, it does tend to bulge out here at the bottom. Yeah. So all that's going to come out. That I can just do with a utility knife, and it is going to scar the metal a little bit. Ideally, avoid doing that as much as possible, but in this case, since I'm going to be cleaning up and repainting under here anyway, After that, I have the Harbor Freight windshield removal tool. They only sell one now for polyurethane. I understand if you have some older stock, you might still run into one that's meant for butyl rubber and it won't hold up. At least that's what YouTube told me. And I've got these because I'll have to lift the glass off and also put it back on whole and probably tape it back down so it's just there to keep the weather out in between stages of cleaning it up. And then I'll actually get a glass company out to come out and remount the new one correctly. Well, there it is. We've cleaned the excess polyurethane out of just the bottom channel. And so far, these are the damages. So that gives you an idea how this is going to go. Well, 15 minutes later, the pile's gotten a little larger. And I think we've just about cleaned out everything except that big galopper right there. So I'm going to finish taking that out, and then we should be ready to switch to the other blade. Old chunk. Got about 20 minutes to work before my next appointment, so let's just see if I can get down at least one side of this thing. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it was mounted too high. There's almost no seal under here. I gotta find something to do that's less painful than this. I have to change blades. Finally got a dry tempered day, so hopefully I can finish cutting the last 3 feet or so of sealant on the top of this windshield. But first, you need to remove that rear view mirror. The pendant is glued to the windshield, but the mirror slides off the pendant, and that takes a T20 Torx. Right there. And next, I'm also going to take this cardboard box from an undisclosed online vendor. What's a prime? And fold it more or less like this. And see if I can kind of wedge that under here so that it doesn't just idly drop down. Okay. Now the windshield's dropping down, we're getting our first look at the real problem area, and it's not as terrible as it looks. It won't, mate? There's one spot right here that may be a bit of a pickle. Might even require a little welding, we'll have to see. But on the whole, I think this is patchable. It can be ground out, sealed, repaired, and patched in. So we're gonna find out, I guess. Now that the glass was physically separated from the Jeep's windshield frame, there was a lot of cleanup work to do inside the frame steel. Part of this procedure was the removal of most plastic trim bits from the dash. But since I haven't yet shown you that footage, you'll have to take my word for it. And if you don't want to take my word for it, well, you're probably at the wrong YouTube channel because I say a lot of things here. Anyway, several Harbor Freight moving blankets were procured and were worth every dollar. They don't cost much more than a couple rolls of heavy-duty painter's plastic and provide superior protection for non-fungible surfaces like hoods that support windshields and naked dashboards. The next steps involve scraping out the remaining polyurethane window adhesive and then scrubbing down the windshield frame rust to bare steel to see how far the problem had actually gone. Much to my own surprise, the rust really was mostly surface level other than some remediable pitting in the upper frame region. This Jeep was repairable, up here at least, without demanding a skilled auto body technician, which was lucky because we don't got one here. Well, as intended, the wire cup wheel on the angle grinder did plenty of damage out there. And in fact, it gouges, so it's kind of a last resort if you're using it on anywhere visible, but inside the window frame there, it was great. Now, however, you need to do a little bit of a finesse. That's going to require this small wire brush to go into the corners. And for that, you really just need a power drill. Once you get past this, the next step would be to actually apply the rust converter. For that, I'm going to use this gel formula, which it's basically a phosphoric acid etching treatment, but it's in a jelly form so that it sticks to material and kind of stays there for a while instead of just going on liquid and light and dripping off and drying out right away. Okay, now for the rust pickler, as some people like to call it. Even though I've gone over this with the wire wheel, there's still going to be orange spots down in grooves and pits that I want to seal up before I primer this. You can leave this on as long as you want until you see the results you're looking for, but I'm thinking the weather might be a problem today. I'm about to get chased inside if I'm not mistaken. Well, we just had 15 minutes of torrential hail. Now the sun's back out like nothing happened. Ugh. Right along there could use a little bit more grinding. I wouldn't quite trust that if I just sealed it back up. Ended up taking a sander and just taking off about an inch up here. That'll give me a working lip to come up to later. Between a bit more sanding, a bit more cup wheel treatment, and a bit more rust conversion, and a bit of washing and vacuuming, I pretty well burned up the remaining daylight. Doing this the right way is a lot of labor, but it should be worth it if the windshield seals up correctly and doesn't rust through again. The penultimate step for today was to seal up this newly cleaned and etched surface with our final weapon of choice in the fight against oxide, Rust-Oleum's Rust Converting Primer. This was not my final priming coat. It was mostly meant to fill dips and seams in the multiple layers of the windshield frame assembly. Most of the converting primer would be knocked down again with a wire wheel to make way for the final coat in today's work, Acid Etch Primer. The acid etch will chemically bond to bare steel through acid conversion of the surface layer, which adheres more strongly than conventional paints and primers, which rely mainly on the resin component to form a glue-like adhesion. The acid etch was also not our final treatment layer, but daylight was fading, and this would seal up the surface well enough for a future day's work. Somewhere in the midst of all this, I got the notion to pick up a Crown Automotive replacement breather tube kit for the airbox to the front CCV inlet on the head. Well, I previously put a stock airbox back in after removing an unstock airbox that somebody had put in. And of course the unstock airbox had this tube because it had to curl around, just a piece of hose. Does it have to be anything more than that? No, it does not. However, Crown number 4854180 is the actual part that goes here. Quality's not great, but it should do the trick. Such as it is. But that's more or less what it's supposed to be. Well, there it is. As of the close of this episode, the new windshield is not yet in, and there's still more work to do on the frame. Yeah, it goes like that. But stick around for next time. I'm going to get some more touch-up work done around the windshield frame, get the new glass put in by a glass company, and then it'll be drivable again. So looking forward to that, and I hope you are too. And if you're not, tune in anyway. Maybe I'll say something funny, or maybe I'll screw up and you can laugh at that.
Has anyone seen my phone?